Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and otherwise. It is your host, Kendall Donaker, aka Father DZ, here to make life a little bit more easy by giving you a look inside my journal on what I call the Single Father Podcast. In this podcast, we explore the joys and challenges of being a single father. I give you a look inside my life when it comes to mental health, relationships, parenting, and everything in between. I hope you can join me for a healthy dose of humor as we discuss what makes things for us stronger, harder, and potentially even more challenging. But I'm glad I got you guys here together with me so we can have a nice venting session together. Thank you for allowing me to vent with you. Again, I am Father DZ here. Guys, you'll have to excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. So this episode is going to be a little bit of a Q&A from a lot of the fans and the dedicated listeners that I have out there. I'm just going to be answering some questions and taking some comments and things like that. And I hope that makes a good episode for you guys. I didn't have a lot to talk about this week. I've been really so sick, and I hope it doesn't show on the podcast. But I'm just so under the weather. It started out as strep throat, and then it kind of got into a territory of just full on, I'm sick. So, yeah. So with that being said, we can just jump right into it. But first and foremost, once again, thank you guys for listening to the Single Father Podcast. Without you guys listening, I wouldn't be here talking to myself. So it's nice to have fans out there that support me. In the next coming episodes, I'm going to be taking on some deeper topics, hopefully having some amazing guests on the show. Last week's episode was amazing, speaking to author Andy Heller about co-parenting, divorce, and just getting some practical advice when it comes to how to handle things better. I've already been interjecting that into a lot of what I do on a daily basis when it comes to how I communicate with my co-parent and really how I go about things and how I react to things as well. So, I want to thank him again. That was one of my favorite episodes. It really was. And I hope to have him back again in the next couple months just to do a little recap or follow up. So that'd be nice. Yeah, and look, follow us on social media. It really helps. It's at the Single Father Podcast pretty much everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. The only thing I'm not on is Twitter. I have my own personal Twitter at Kendall Donaker. So just follow us. We're always posting cool things, and you can stay up to date with the latest episodes and maybe get some behind the scenes content as well. So that'd be great. I'm trying full-blown video podcasts now, so the videos will be posted to our YouTube channel at the Single Father Podcast. If you want to see my beautiful mug, check out our YouTube. So thank you. Other housekeeping is we have a Patreon. If you want to become a patron of the podcast, support the podcast, look, it's just the price of a cup of coffee. You can do $5 a month. We have 5, 10, 15. We have different tiers. I forgot which one's which, but there's tiers where I give you guys a shout out on every episode. You have voting power over upcoming episodes. We have a Facebook group, a community exclusive to our Patreon groups that we can communicate with and bond with each other on. So yeah, check out our Patreon. It's just patreon.com/thesinglefatherpodcast and support the show. It really helps because I think that will be the key into really taking the podcast to the next level and just doing more amazing things. And again, I'm sorry for my voice. I'm sorry for not having a full-on, a venting session when it comes to an episode. My daughter got me sick, and then I had strep, and it's just it's a mess. But yeah. Anyways, I'm trying new things on the podcast. Let me know what you think. By the way, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, all you have to do is email me at hello@ventpack.org. And then the subject line, you can just write venting session or guest spot and write to me a little bit about who you are and why you want to be on the show, what you want to discuss, and we can make it happen. Yeah. Or if you have any suggestions on who should be on the show, email them to me as well. I'm always open to having real conversations with people and having different experiences and things like that. I think it's nice to get um, a taste of other people's lives, you know? All right. So with that being said, I am going to read some questions. By the way, how do you get a question to me on the podcast? Usually on the podcast, what we do is at the end of every episode, I like to do a section of the podcast called mailbag. I don't do it on every episode, but when I can, and when it's not running overtime, I'll do a mailbag session. And what is mailbag? It's basically you email me at hello@ventpack.org. That's VentPack.org. And basically in the subject line, just type mailbag and write to me a question. All questions are going to be anonymous. Write to me a question and I'll have it answered on the show. It's nice. I like having your guys' questions. I like answering it. If you have any question to me, if it's appropriate, I'll read it on the show and hopefully get some clarity to whatever you want to know. So with that being said, I'm gonna spend the whole episode really just doing mailbag, and it's gonna be a shorter episode than usual. Like I said, I'm really sick, but when I feel better, we'll get back into the swing of things. But without further ado, let's take it from Anonymous. Anonymous asked, last week's episode was interesting. How did you apply that to your co-parenting situation now? Is anything better? That's well, I'll tell you what. Here's the deciding factor if everything's better. I just got, literally just now, I don't know if you guys could hear my phone buzzing, but I got a message from my co-parent, my child's mother, and here will be yeah, that nothing is yeah, so I just read that message, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if anything's better per se. What I will say is I think I have a better understanding on how to handle certain situations and how to deal with them. For whatever reason, the last 4 years being a co-parent has been super challenging for me because being a co-parent the last 4 years has been super challenging for me because I think I've had an expectation of how I thought this would be and things like that, and it's not it, you know? So when you ask me if things are better, I think with everything, you know, it takes time. It won't happen overnight. Change takes time. And, it's only been a few weeks or maybe a week and a half. So I don't know. All I can say is, I think I have a better understanding on how to deal with certain situations. So are things better? Not really. But I have a much better capacity on how to handle situations or conversations that may irritate me. Yeah. All right. Excuse me. Again, I'm sick. Next question. Anonymous writes, how do you feel about your child's mother's boyfriend? I don't know. Look, I've said this before. I have no, well, here's what I will say. What I respect about him, and I don't really know him, to be honest with you. What I respect about him is every single fight that I've ever had with my child's mother, or argument or disagreement or whatever, spit, spat, whatever you want to say. Every single time, he has never once interjected himself ever. ever. And I'll tell you what, that was always one of my biggest fears. Not that I'm scared of it. Look, I don't know how to say it respectfully. I'm not scared of anything. But one of my biggest fears was creating a situation for myself that would further irritate everything in my life. Meaning, I'm sure there is situations out there where the mother's boyfriend does interject himself and say something. And look, by the way, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, nothing I said has ever been out of pocket. So, what I like is that our disagreements between her, my daughter's mother and I stay between us, and it doesn't have to anything to really do with, him. So that's what I appreciate. But I him as a person, I've said this before. Something I didn't like was me not being able to, sit down and grab a beer with the guy and getting to know the person who's around my daughter. That really bothered me to an extent that I let go pretty much. But it bothered me. But I spoke about this in a previous episode. My friend told me something about that, and he was like, "Well, you know, if you go out with him and grab a beer and you decide you don't like him, what does that do for you other than confirm you don't like him? What would it really do? Even if you didn't like him, if you did or didn't like him, what could you really do?" So, yeah, I think it's all about having, control over the things I can control and accepting the things that I can't control. So the point was, even if I didn't like the guy, what could I really do about it? So, um, I didn't like that I couldn't grab a beer with him and get to know him, but, I guess in hindsight, what would that really matter to me anyway? So I don't know. Overall, I don't really know the guy, and yeah, it hasn't tremendously bothered me yet. So yeah. Next question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years when it comes to your baby mother? Um, I don't know what that means. I think that question could be interpreted many different ways. If you're talking relationship wise, nada. That's off the table beyond any fathom of possibilities. But if you're talking, when it comes to our co-parenting relationship, I don't know. I hope um, I'm approaching life with an open mind and an embracing heart. I don't have tremendous assumptions about anything anymore. You know, um, there was, I think, 2 episodes ago, I was speaking about how I said things will never change, and then, my daughter swallowed a magnet, and I saw her mom for the first time in like 2 years, and we actually shared a laugh with each other, and um, it made me a little hopeful. So uh, I don't know. I have no idea. Could be worse, could be better. I know there's a few things that um, I'm concerned about, but I me, I'm a bit of I'm the type of guy that kind of likes to think about the future a lot, which is kind of not a very good thing, to be honest with you. I'm a big planner. I like to know things right away. I guess to summarize that, I'm impatient. So, I like to, I overthink a lot. And what I'm trying to do now is to kind of just let things sit and settle and be in the moment. And, I don't really feel a need to overthink things anymore. So that's kind of my biggest thing I'm working on when it comes to my personal self, is kind of letting things be. To your overall question, like I said, I don't know. I'm kind of just going with the flow, baby. Um. All right. Next question. Any relationship advice for a single father? I don't know. I would ask you for advice, to be honest. I'm not really having a ton of luck in the relationship department. So I mean, I like I said, I would ask you. All I can say is, every not only a single parent, but every parent has come in a situation where someone says, I actually just the other day, to be honest, I forgot. Just the other day, I'm on a date, and it was super casual. It was like a coffee date, so it wasn't a huge investment. But I'm on a coffee date, and I'm talking to this girl about my life, and then comes, hey, well, first, every time I'm on a date, I like to, it's kind of like my sales tactic. I like to ask a ton of questions about them. So I'm letting her speak for a very long time, and then she asks me about myself, and I tell her about my family, and then I tell her I have a daughter, and then I could see visually in her face she was taken back by it. And then later in the conversation, she was like, "Yeah, um, uh, I was a little thrown back by you having a daughter, and I'm not ready to be a mother," and which is always kind of a peculiar thing to say to me, because it's like, what are you talking about? I never even said that you would ever meet her. Who said anything about you being a mother? And and it used to be, it used to bother me a lot, because, um, it's like, how I'm not, what difference is there besides me having a child? What other, I'm still the same person. Like, I'm still young. I still like to go out. I like concerts. I like music. I like food. I'm like, everything that you want to do, I can do. Right. And I have my daughter 1 week on, 1 week off. And even if I had her full time, seriously, I mean, how am I that uh different? Yeah, I'm mature. I'm a whole ass dad, but it's I, I I don't get. It's like, oh well, you just want to get married, and I don't know, because I mean, I don't know what the thought process is. I'm not ready to be a mother. I get that. I'm not ready to be. I don't know. It just it really bugs me sometimes, because I'm like, there's nothing I asked of you. I am just simply, I don't know. I'm the same person. So that statement kind of bugs me, or it did. But now, when she told me that, I was kind of like relieved, because nowadays when someone tells me I'm not with a kid or whatever, I kind of thank them, because I'm like, okay, well, you're not the one for me. And it's like the mantra of every single parent, not even a father, but every parent out there, the mantra is, my person will be more than accepting of me having, my bonus package, my partner in crime, my daughter, my child. She's a bonus, not baggage. So, um, yeah. With every single parent, that definitely comes up, but it really doesn't bother me anymore, because it's like, you did me a favor. Now I know that you're not the one, and I can spend my time somewhere else. And truthfully, if someone tells you that, do you really even want to pursue them further when it comes to thinking about your future? Someone who doesn't really like kids or want kids, do you want them around your kid? I don't really know that to be the best thing. I I don't know. I'll tell you, I dated this one girl. Not dated, but I guess I was talking pretty. I don't know. I was talking to this one girl, and she had a kid, and I tried to get with it, but I truthfully despised her child. I really did. And I know it's awful to say, but I hated her kid. I hated him. And he was just a bad kid. I mean, some of you are like, why? But I'm sure. But yeah, he was just a bad kid. And I felt like, well, that's rude to say. I don't know if he was I don't want to say he was a bad kid. I mean, every kid is just lovely, but I think a lot of you out there know what I mean. I wasn't vibing with her kid. And ultimately maybe it had something to do with me. I don't think I don't here's why you should never be offended if someone tells you that, even because listen, they did you a favor, and even if you don't get it, even if it does kind of offend you, you can't act like it, because internally I think some of us can get it, right? I don't know if I can be a step parent to somebody else's kid. I don't know if that's me, right? And the people who think that, you have to accept that, like that's valid. Me personally, I don't know if I could be a step parent to someone else's kid. I tried it. I wasn't vibing with the kid, and this sounds horrible too. But but then you start to think about your own parenting style, and I'm like, everything that she did as a parent, I would have done the opposite, and it just wasn't a vibe, and I kind of just I let it go. So yeah, I don't know. All I can say is that's a tough one as far as dating. But I don't know. I'm a big believer in just being yourself, being honest, being open, and not trying to force anything. Look, if someone's not vibing with you having a kid, then look, they did you a favor. There's no need to act rude to that person, but in all seriousness, you can be like, okay, thank you, next. Ariana Grande voice. Next question. How often do you make time for yourself when having a kid? I mean, all the time. I mean, even when she's here, I take constant naps, or I try to. And the problem with having, a kid and making time for yourself is you have to create a plan. And I wasn't really on board with that at first, because I wanted to just wing it, wake up every day, wing it, and be spontaneous. And you can at some times do that, but I like to have a plan involved too. I like to plan my weeks out a little bit, and that goes a little bit back to kind of my OCD about looking towards the future. But I think when I wake up, I know what I'm making for breakfast for Layla. I know what's for dinner. I know what our plan is for today. I have a scheduled time for us to have father-daughter time. There's a time for her to nap. There's a time for her playtime. There's a time for me to nap. There's a time for me to play games. There's a time for us at nighttime to watch a movie together, for her to wind down. I like there's a routine that we follow. And I think part of making time for yourself is by having that routine. So, like I said, I make time for myself all the time, but I have a routine. All right, next question. Have you ever tried to manage a date while having your daughter? Yeah, I have. I mean, I just use anything that's available to me. I mean, my family sometimes is available. Sometimes, if I'm going on like a quick coffee date, my gym actually has like a little daycare thing. I can drop Layla off for like 2 hours and go on like a little coffee date, maybe at the gym or something. And I don't know, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's bound to happen. So yes, that has happened. Sorry guys, I need to take a sip of tea. I am very, very sick. Hold on. All right. Next question. What is your favorite movie to put on when you're having a date? I don't know. That's a silly question. Really, I don't know. I like to ask what they want to watch, and they'll ultimately say, I don't know. And then I pick something, and then, I don't know. But to be honest with you, when it goes back to dating advice, I don't think watching a movie at your house is a very good first date, because I mean, me, and I've changed on that attitude, because me, like when I was younger, like I said, my dad really, no disrespect, but for those of you who have been listening to my podcast a while, my parents didn't really show me very chivalrous, um, visuals when it came to their relationship. And I don't think my dad really taught me how to be a gentleman. So, what I learned from love and things like that and dating was the movies. And I got frustrated because every single movie is just the guy inviting a girl over to his house. He cooks, he has like an apron on or something, and they have wine, and they just have a dinner on the kitchen counter, a bar, a table, and it's a beautiful rom-com there, right? And that's what I've learned from every single movie. Literally, think about it. It happens in every single movie pretty much, where it's just like a first date is, I'll cook for you. And I've always thought that that's it, right? And so I've always went for that. But of course, girls think, if you're trying to get me over your house, you just want to fuck, or they're, they don't know, they're worried about safety, or, and I get it, but I got so frustrated because I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm like, what am I, so, I've moved away from, first dates at the house. And if you really want a first date, to be nice, pick somewhere. If you have the bread, do like something kind of quirky or interesting. I'd say maybe like an escape room, or maybe a sushi date or something like that. Or if you're strapped for cash, or you want to make it a little bit more casual, you're not sure if you really are interested in the person, maybe a coffee date. That's always like a really easy and clean break too. Like that, like I said, the girl I was meeting with the other day that told me she's not really for kids. It was such a clean break. It was like, oh, we just had coffee. Oh well, I got a coffee and I'm just gonna go about my day. You know. So it was, yeah, I like those. But as far as movies go, I don't know, man. That's a silly question. Next question. How do you? Oh wow, this is relevant. How do you feel about sex on the first date? Yeah, I mean, I'd say no. I think some. I don't know if I can. I don't know. This is weird. I don't know if I can speak for every guy out there, but there's something, or even maybe girls too. If there's any girls listening, which I know there are, but if you maybe you can email me or DM me about this, because this is interesting. Do girls have it where you sleep with someone and then you kind of just suddenly are not interested with them if it's the first time? Because it's weird if you sleep with someone the first date. I don't know if that really, because there's no surprise anymore. It's like, I don't know if I'm interested in you because I've already got all of you in one sitting. So yeah, I mean, I think there needs to be more of a surprise if you're really interested in someone. Maybe one or two dates first. Or if you guys are both mature, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing you couldn't do now that you can't do 3 months from now. So maybe except anal. I don't know. That's a little big one for the first date. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's an interesting discussion that I don't know if I'm fully qualified to answer, but I don't know. Very interesting. How would you feel if your daughter ever got into OnlyFans? I'm not answering that question. Next question. I think that's a disrespectful question, to be honest with you. I understand. Anyways, how would you feel? How would you feel if your kid went into OnlyFans? So why would I want to discuss that? It would never happen. What are you talking about? Anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to be rude, but seriously. Next question. Sorry, I'm looking here. By the way, I will answer it. It would never happen. And that's that. But, it's a very tricky conversation that, I don't want to get canceled, or I don't know. It's a very interesting topic. And, I love my daughter no matter what she would do. But I think there are a lot of different things that um, women can do anything. You know, President of the United States. I think we miss that. I don't think anyone really tells their kids that anymore. You know, I remember growing up, the American thing to say was, "You could be president of the United States. You could be an astronaut. You could do anything. You could be a pilot." I think that's kind of lost in today's society. You know, now it's like, you could dance or do OnlyFans. And look, I get it. You know, teach their own. But I think there's a lot of things people can do, and I'll support whatever my daughter wants to do. So, um, but uh, but yeah, over my dead body. Anyways, what do you do for work? I'm a national shipping. I'm a national sales director for a shipping and fulfillment center. Um, it's called Rocket Shippers, and I love it. Um, yeah, I love it. And my bosses are amazing and very cool. And yeah. And I see the next question is, you know, would I ever want this to be my main job? Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm very happy with what with everything right now. But I mean, if I could sit back and have this podcast be my main job, of course I would do that in a heartbeat. But a little bit ways to go from that as of right now. That'd be great though. I would love that so much. Um, by the way, join our Patreon, and maybe I could get there. Yeah. Next question. Have you ever dated someone that cheated on you? Of course. Um, why'd you ask it like that? I think why didn't you just ask, have you ever been cheated on? Yeah, I have. I speak about it. I spoke about it before, and you know, I can't really go into it again for, you know, a couple of reasons. But yeah, I have, and you know, it affected me deeply, and I would never do that to someone. I think if you're that, and I sometimes I see these TikTok videos of people like giving advice on how to cheat, and I'm like, why don't you just break up with the person? Why is it that, you know, why are you going through a whole bunch of extra steps and sweating and your heart racing and, you know, locking? I mean, it just seems like a lot of extra steps when you could just break up with the person. Next question. Have you ever been in love? Yes, I have. Or at least, I don't know. I have. I have. I'll say I have. Yeah. Next question. Were you ever in love with your baby mama? Interesting question. I'll say I don't know. I'll say I don't know. Um, I will say I don't know. Next question. How many kids do you want? I don't know. Probably a couple more. I go in between though. Sometimes I'm like, my daughter stresses me out to the point where I feel like I'm having a heart attack. And by the way, here's something I want to discuss. You know, self-care when you're a single parent is also important. And don't be afraid to tell someone, hey, my child is stressing me out. Look, I see a therapist and I see a psychiatrist and I see a regular doctor. And, you know, I have my entire life struggled with anxiety. I've struggled with depression. I've struggled with a lot of different things that, you know, affect my well-being and my person. And I think one of the things that I try to actively look out for is my own personal well-being, my own personal um, state of mind. And, you know, I think especially lately, my daughter has especially stressed me out in a way that is not only different, but more advanced. You know, when she was younger, and I was just telling my friend this too. It's funny when when your child is first born, it's kind of about, you know, keeping them alive and keeping them and taking care of them and feeding them and doing everything for them. And although that can be somewhat stressful, I think it's less so because it's more beautiful um and new and special, and the worst thing that happens is just them crying, but really babies sleep a lot. As she gets a little older, it's more of making sure she doesn't put things in her mouth and, um, just getting rid of some tantrums and, but now my 4-year-old has fully formed her little personality, and she has attitudes, and she has not tantrums, but like really bad hissy fits, and she disrespects me, and it's a lot. And I think especially doing it on my own, I felt myself breaking down, crying. I felt myself wanting to explode. So I went to the doctor and I said, "Listen, here's what's happening. My daughter is giving me a heart attack. I'm going to literally pass out and die if I don't get this taken care of. What can I do?" And yeah, I mean, I've gotten prescribed, some things that, help me and, chill out. And it's not weed. I know a lot of you are thinking weed, but no, I don't smoke weed. I'm sure that would help me chill out, but kind of hard to, being in the moment and just saying, I'm going to smoke a joint while you just sit there and play your Barbies. So no. But yeah, I went to the doctor and said, "Look, my daughter's killing me. What can I do? What can you do for me?" So don't be afraid to, check up on your mental health, because yeah, you're a single parent. You have a lot going on, and, look, I mean, it can be tough for anyone. So yeah. By the way, I mean, I'll admit this to you guys right now. I mean, I'm on antidepressants. I'm taking Cymbalta. It's an antidepressant that helps me and with my anxiety and my mood. Um, and I look, I'd love to get off it one day, and or maybe not. I don't know. All I know is I'm good. All I know is in my worst moment, I felt like I couldn't go on, and in my worst moments now, I still see a sliver of light at the end of the tunnel. And part of that is the motivation I have for my daughter, and part of that is just by going to the doctor and making sure that I'm all good, making sure that I'm a healthy, stable person that, cares about their mental health. So, I don't look, sometimes, it can be depressive, going through things on your own. So, yeah, don't be afraid to check up on your mental health. And if you know anyone who's a single parent, or just like you, or maybe you're not a single parent, you're just listening just cause, which I appreciate the support, welcome. But, check up on the people that you care about. Just do a little mental health check. And, yeah, I mean, sometimes I think the best thing someone told me one time is just like, "I hear you." I think I'm like, "Look, I get you." Someone really listened to me and said, "I hear you." And that made me feel so good. But yeah, anyways, I forgot what the original question was. Next question. Where do you live? Vegas, but, that's all you're getting, creeper. What is your custody situation like? It's 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off. I bring it up all the time, but, yeah, it is 1 week on, 1 week off. And, look, it's a good situation. Look, I brought this up, I think, last episode too, but there was a lot of stigmas out there about single fathers. And I remember when I went to court, I felt like I almost got the feeling that I was at a disadvantage, and I'm the one who filed for 50-50. And Nevada is a 50-50 state, but I mean, a lot of people favor the mother. And I'll say right off the bat, before I say anything else, I will say that I am well aware that in a lot of situations, maybe most situations, there are instances where that deserves to be the case, whether it's, physical abuse, emotional abuse, child abuse, sexual assaults, anything of that nature. Or if the person's just a shitty person, I understand that, it warrants sometimes one parent to be awarded full custody. But I do think there's a really bad stigma out there about single fathers, especially within the Black community. In the Black community, I mean, look, it's obvious. Everyone has the thought out there that, you know, Black fathers don't stick around and they don't exist, and I think that's a very destigmatized and uh, uh, just old-fashioned, well, first of all, myth, but you know, it's proven to be a myth. It's just a lie, and it's a terrible thing to think about Black people in that fashion. But also there are situations out there where, you know, mom or dad just gets mad at the other and, you know, use the secrets that they've shared with each other or something of that nature to get awarded 50-50. And I think it is wrong to, it's called parental alienation. I think it is wrong to say that because you're a certain gender that you should be just automatically awarded full custody or looked on in a more favorable manner. You know, I just because I'm a male, I don't think that should make me any less entitled to the child that I brought into this world than the other parent. You know what I mean? And I, like I said, I know there's certain situations where that needs to be the case, but in just a normal, you know, hey, we break up and I don't like you situation, I just don't agree with that. You know, it's horrible. And, you know, I remember looking at resources for myself when I was awarded 50-50. I'm like, well, how can I get by? And luckily, like I said, her mother wasn't breastfeeding, but and so I had formula to go off of. But even that, I'm looking, how can I be supported? It's expensive, and I wasn't even aware. I forgot how I found out, but I wasn't even aware that WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, is what it stands for. Gives resources to men, and you wouldn't know because it literally says women, infants, and children. So, you know, it doesn't really promote at all that men can get that support. And you just kind of get looked down upon. And I think that was one of the biggest heartbreaks for me being a father is I'm like, look, I'm fully all in. First of all, I'm not saying I do want this. I'm just saying, of course, I want my daughter all the time. But I'm like, you know, I of course I want full custody. You know, and I'm not saying like, and let's be clear, I'm not saying I'm going to go after full custody. I'm good. I'm just saying, of course, I want my daughter all the time. But you know, I just feel like it was such a weird thing to be looked down upon just because I'm a Black single father here in America. You know, just because I'm a male means I'm at a disadvantage when it comes in the court system. And, you know, that's a fact. And I hate to put it like that, but it is. And that doesn't mean I don't support, I support single mothers, of course. It just means that I just want to, you know, I want a fair shot at raising my daughter just like a single mother would, you know, and minus the things that come with, that extra territory where it deserves to be that case, you know, minus the abuse or physical abuse, whatever those cases be, where the mother deserves to be, you know, I just think, I don't know. I think you guys get what I'm saying. But yeah, you know, all I wanted to do was be supported. And that's kind of why I started the podcast, just to give support and share support and be supportive with each other and to let other single fathers know that they're not alone. You know, single parenting is a challenge, and it deserves to be commended. And to all of you out there, the single mothers and the fathers, to whatever gender you identify yourself as, you know, you deserve support and you deserve recognition. I think staying in your child's life and being there for your child is such a special and beautiful thing. So yeah, I'll read a couple more and then I'm kind of done because I'm very sick. And I'm sorry about this episode, guys. It's kind of unscripted. But yeah, I'm just kind of going with the flow. Next question. You mentioned in college that you had some issues with depression. What were some of the issues that made you want to change as a person? Well, that's a very good question and a deep one. Um, I think one of those issues where for me was I didn't like how things were panning out for me in my life around me. Um, I had it's difficult because I want to explain, but I don't want to make excuses. Um, I look at that time, my parents were going through divorce, and my girlfriend at the time, I was in a bad way, and I was super depressed and angry, and I turned into a really big asshole in college, and I felt like starting fights and chasing girls was a way to, um, this was a way to kind of, um, well, I guess to understand you kind of have to know my backstory. My we with my dad, his job required us to move around a lot. So I was born in Michigan. I lived in New York. I think a little bit in California. We went to Arizona, Washington State. I went to middle school in Nebraska, and then I went to high school in Vegas. And I went to several different high schools in Vegas because of my parents' divorce. But I remember when I came to Vegas, I'm this guy in, you know, jean shorts and a FUBU T-shirt, talking to everyone like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And talking quote unquote white per se, and everyone just picked on me. Really, I got bullied a lot in high school because of the way I spoke and dressed and acted. I was really um, polite, and I was really mild mannered, and I didn't know what hella meant. I thought sex was a bad word. I am. I tell this story a lot, but it's funny now looking back on it. But I remember I had no idea what do you want to catch a fade? I didn't know what that meant. So I remember, coming from Nebraska to Vegas, I didn't know what catch a fade means. And I asked someone, what does catch a fade mean? And he was like, oh, it means, do you want to hang out? And he's like, go to that guy right over there and say, hey, do you want to catch a fade? And it was this really big football player. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to make friends. So I go up to him and I'm like, hey, man, you want to catch a fade? This guy looks at me and says, what? And I'm like, yeah, do you want to catch a fade? He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm going to McDonald's if you want to catch a fade, man. He's like, I can do it right now. And I'm like, okay, I got time. And then he literally, I just remember smiling at him and seeing the meanest mug face I've ever seen in my life. And then the next second, I'm on the floor. He punches me square in the face. He's like, how about that fade, nigga? Just going crazy. And then I remember the people I asked that were laughing behind me. They're like, catch a fade means you want to fight, fool. Blah, 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 blah. And I just got bullied so hard in high school. I really did, and I remember after that, I'm like, okay, I got to fit in. And I felt that the first time I really would fit in was kind of joining the crowd and just being a sheep, which I'm disappointed in, really. But I remember just making people laugh, and I would, yeah, I would just try to make people laugh, but it would be like, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it, but it wasn't like the type of thing that like what they were laughing about, I wasn't proud of. It was just kind of being a dick and an asshole. And, that's how I made people laugh. And I'm like, okay, this is what I need to do. And I need to switch things up. I can't be this mild mannered guy anymore. I need to start saying hella. I need to start, trying to be, a little bit more quote unquote black. I didn't have that. My dad's white, my mom's black, but my siblings are mixed, and even my daughter's mixed, and my child's mother's white. And when I went to family reunions, it was one white side and one black side. I never saw race as an issue for me in my entire life. And it's funny because I remember living in Nebraska, being in this mixed race family. I truthfully didn't understand what racism meant. It was only at a later age where I understood that some of the things that were happening to me when I was in middle school was racism. And I always thought it was just someone being rude, you know? And so when I came to Vegas, it was such a different culture shock, and I had to try to adapt. And I think one of the things that I regret during that time is that I didn't really stay true to myself and be myself. Yeah, maybe I saw, girls maybe were attracted to that thug guy, but I think I was really comfortable just being me, this sweet guy who was romantic and innocent, and I kind of miss that aspect. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I've gotten that back where I'm more myself. And I do think Vegas has, I've consumed some of the culture of Vegas, but that asshole-ish nature is kind of out of me. But it did stay with me in college. And to answer your question, that's kind of what it was, and it was amplified when I went to college because of a lot of things that were going on with my family. So again, and I didn't learn what love or how to care for a woman. I didn't know any of those aspects when I went to college. So I remember just looking up college movies and learning from like Van Wilder or American Pie. And if you see those movies, it's all about chasing women and partying and doing all these things. And I tried to adapt that personality in college, and I remember it just didn't go well, And I started losing really good friends, and I started just hearing things about me, just whispers about me all the time. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I remember there was there were so many rumors about me at one point that are just so much negative connotation to my name. If people hear my name, they just, that I started going by K. I'm like, call me K. Because I felt, at the time, I'm like, if people get to know K, then maybe they'll be more accepting when they find out that I'm Kendall. It was so bad. And I remember just kind of getting overwhelmed by it. And I brought this up before, but a big, big, big piece of my life that kind of changed me was I was talking to this girl who has since passed away, unfortunately. But I was talking to this girl, and we've always been really close. She was one of the first people I met up in Reno when I went to college. Over the course of some time, her and I got really close, and then all of a sudden we just didn't speak anymore. And I remember I got a girlfriend once, and I posted her to my Instagram, and I remember it was such a horrifying day for me because instantly when I posted her to my Instagram, that girl got flooded with messages about me. I don't know if I'd say flooded, but she got definitely a few DMs about me. And one of them was that girl that I was close with before. And she said, yeah, be careful of Kendall. He's kind of an asshole and a player and blah, 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 blah. And I remember I was so distraught by it. I'm like, what the fuck? This girl that I was close with, the first girl I met up in Reno, like, how could you say this about me? I was blown away. And I remember texting her. I'm like, what? Hey, I don't know what happened or what's going on, but I just want to let you know I forgive you for telling my girlfriend that, And I remember she responds to me, and it's something of the nature like, forgive me. She's like, Kendall, I guess it's hard to repeat, but she said, Kendall, you're not a good person. You lie, you cheat, you steal, and no one has anything good to say about you. She's like, even I have fallen victim to people saying things or rumors about myself, but not into the mass volume that you have. And it really, really hurt me. And I just remember so much of college, I was blaming other people. I'd lose a friend, I'd be like, fuck that guy. I'd lose another friend, fuck him. People would say things about me, fuck them, fuck you too, fuck it. You know what I mean? I didn't give a fuck. But that one, I think that was the first time where I'm like, fuck me, man. What am I doing? I and I think that moment, I'm like, I don't want to be this person. I'm like, you're right. I want to change. And I remember shortly after that I got baptized, and um I just remember thinking the day after my baptism, I don't feel any different. And the thing that I've learned that I try to tell people now is change takes time. It's not a light switch. It's a journey. And I just remember just desperately trying to change everything about myself to make it where I could recognize myself again. Go back to that sweet innocent boy that I was in Nebraska, you know, that young man who did have some chivalry and didn't need to fit in with the crowd. Just I wanted to be myself again, to let go of all that hate and anger that I had and just to show people who I really am. And look, I started that's another reason I started this podcast, is because I wanted to show people a different side of me. Because and again, it's hard to speak about it because I don't want it to sound like I'm making excuses. I fully accept and am aware of everything, negative that I've done or people that I've hurt or whatever the case may be. And I accept that and I own it, and I am more apologetic than you know. Just from being an asshole to everyone. But I was hurt, angry boy. Just this boy who was hurt, angry, and scared. And I'm like, I'm not that boy anymore. I'm now I'm full of love, and I'm caring, and I'm open. And I remember when I had my daughter, I think that really did it for me, especially being a girl. Like, I have to start showing people respect. I have to start treating everyone with respect. I don't want my daughter to be another one that hears things about me. I don't want her to be someone else who hears whispers and rumors about me. I want to be a man that she can look up to, a man that she respects, a man that she bases her future loves off of. I want to be that guy for her. And I remember that was just set in stone when I had my daughter. I'm like, I am that guy. I have to be that guy, I have no choice. I will change. But not just for her, for myself. And when that girl died, I mean, it really broke me, because I've always wanted just to go back to her and say, see me now. I'm different. I still believe to this day that when I die, I don't know, I have this image in my head that she'll be there and say, you did it. But yeah, I think that was the start of why I wanted to change. And my daughter was the nail in the coffin to me starting that major change in my life, to being the man that I feel like I am today. And I always say this all the time to some of those people who still see me as that asshole. Those opinions may be set in stone, but to others, there's more of me yet to see. And stone, can also break. And if you want to rewrite your opinion of me in a different set of stones, I'm here to show you the good side of me, the vulnerable side, the man who just makes mistakes, who's human. I'm now a single dad dealing with consequences of my past, and dealing with consequences of how I acted in the relationship with my child's mother. And although I will tell you that I do believe there's a lot of reasons why her mother and I broke up, but I'd be lying if I didn't say a big reason was me just being an asshole. I I regret a lot of things that I did, but I'm proud of the man I am now. That being said, guys, I'm losing my voice, and I think that's about it. Um, Again, sorry it wasn't the best of episodes. I try to go an hour long just to make it, entertaining, and but yeah, I've answered a few questions. I've told you guys a few stories, and I have to go rest my voice. I really am not. I really don't feel good. But thank you guys for joining me on another episode, and thank you for letting me vent with you. It's amazing that I have a group of people who are able to support me, and we can support each other. And once again, follow us on social media at the Single Father Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, like, subscribe where the podcast is available anywhere you enjoy podcasts. Subscribe, leave a review, comment. It really helps. It really does. Join our Patreon. If you like what you hear and you want to join me back next week, join the Patreon. Become a supporter of the podcast. Like I said, it's a price of a cup of coffee every month. $5 a month. What's that to you? You know. By the way, I mean, if it's a lot to you, I don't know. I'm just asking. But yeah, there's different tiers that you can sign up with, and um, I would love to have you guys to join the Patreon and join the community. Thank you guys so much for being a part of today's show. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Make sure if you want to be a guest on the podcast, you email me at hello@ventpack.org. And in the subject line, write guests. And same goes for if you want to write in a question. As you see, I have a ton of room for questions because I kind of give long answers. And I thought this would be a rapid fire type of thing where I'd answer a ton of questions, but I have a lot of stories to tell. So thank you guys for writing in those questions. Email me, be there with me, and I'll see you guys next week. This is the Single Father Podcast. I am your host, Kendall Donaker, aka Father DZ. Until next time, bye-bye.